Hey traders, this is Christian Farmhertz, Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Tuesday, February 9th. And theme of the day, I'll come out and say it. Indices basically a little bit choppy, but a lot of trade opportunities in individual names. So before we get started here, risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. This is strictly for education purposes only. Also, if the screen is fuzzy or not in high def, YouTube takes a while now to render these videos. So, if you want to see high def, just close it, wait maybe about 15-20 minutes, and especially if I send this out around 5:30ish, that's how long it usually takes. So that said, I mentioned the indices kind of choppy. Yeah, they didn't really move too much for the day. SPY was, I guess, that this broke the streaks. S&P was up 6 days in a row, just off the just finished down slightly for the day, so that breaks the streak. We did not get seven days. So I chuckle because this market has been pretty hot, right? We've had some nice moves here over the last week and a half, right? So let's go back. So first of all, here's the S&P. We always kind of start that, but you could see where we started for the day. We did advance, but this week we've just since we gapped up on Monday, the overall market. S&P, the largest names, are going sideways. Again, a little bit different, right? So that's just the last 2 days and basically where we opened. But if you look at, and we're moving above value, we're above all the short-term moving averages, so there's no sell signal, other than, we kind of know that we've been going up decently. The Qs have kind of been doing the same thing the last 2 days. Where the real big performance has been in the small caps. They continue to outperform. They're up another 0.5% after being up 2% yesterday. Even more dramatic is the IWC, which is the microcap ETF, also up another 1%. I mean, just monster moves here. This index is getting very overbought. I will say this index has gotten very overbought. So I would be mindful. We are seeing a little bit of put buying now in IWM. But, for this microcap ETF, the RSI is an 85. That is very hot, right? So normally, again, I'll just kind of quote this for your own. So here you go. Here's the RSI. Above 70 is overbought. We're up near 85. So, does that mean, when I say this, what does that mean for me? It just means that they're probably due for a little bit of consolidation. It doesn't mean that they have to crash or anything like that or pull back really hard. It just means that, wow, this has been a huge move, and probably a little bit of at least a little bit of consolidation is in order. Some people like to fade this stuff when it gets to be around 85. They buy a little bit of puts. There's nothing wrong with that if you want to try to kind of hedge a little bit or maybe play a little bit of speculation to the downside with the RSI that hot. For me, what I normally do is just I try to take off a little bit more positions, right, and be mindful of that. It's tricky playing both sides of the market, and I don't usually like to go against trends. I usually try to stick with the trend for as long as it's going to last and try to milk as much money out of this market, while it is trending. That's how I trade, but there's more than one way to make money in this market, no doubt. All right, so if we go back to my my spreadsheet for the day, the pot stocks just absolutely, I don't know, insert your joke here, but we took out another Virgin point of control today. This was taken out, I think, pre-market on the weekly bars. So these things are just moving up with a lot of velocity. 26.55. Up 13%. I mean, it's just been pretty crazy, right? I talked about the blockchain ETF yesterday too. It's funny because I'm still seeing some call buying in some of these things. We saw an order in the block, like so this is officially the blockchain ETF. I call it the Bitcoin blockchain ETF. This is the thing that we got long last week. It's now up 17% in 2 days. And if you go through some of these names, I mean, it's dramatic, right? It is a dramatic move when you look at some of these things. MSTR was up another 22%. Riot Blockchain up another 20%. I mean, granted, these are after huge moves already. All right, and here's the MJ movers. Again, might as well show these considering, I mean, the performance has been amazing. Tillery is now $40. I mean, I can't believe that Tillery, remember, Tillery topped out over $100 a couple years ago, then sank down to what was it, $5 or something? Somewhere in the single digits, and is now up to 42. It's amazing. All right, and a bunch of other names in there as well that performed pretty well for the day. But yeah, I mean, we're up to 53 in this thing now in the blockchain ETF. Also overbought. All right, so those are a couple areas, and then of course, things like PBW, no slouch there, up another 1.9%. I also got long some of that last week in the TTG Trend Portfolio. Let's just, whoa, what did I do here? Let's move that out of here. All right, so that was, and the solar names, even, and they should be stronger tomorrow too. 10, I remain long that in the TTG Trend Portfolio, but ENPH, let's see, 214, and that's right around the top of value for ENPH. SETG also moving up a little bit too. That's a name that was part of our weekly watch list trade. I actually traded that a little bit too this week, or today actually, and you can see that that's getting a little bit of a boost there as well. All right, and other performers that we have, Chinese internets, again, up another 2.4%. So some of these themes have just been continuing to run. Software, no slouch either for the day, up another 1%. So really growth, high beta, high momentum, right? Pot stocks, blockchain stocks, clean energy stocks, Chinese internet, software, regional banks also snuck in there again. They were up 1.2%. They gained strength throughout the session. So again, you look at the S&P, and if you're just trading that right now, probably not the best thing to be trading, like S&P futures or something like that, because there's so many better movers that are happening. And what we try to do is identify as many of these themes as possible. I have a three-pronged attack, for this, in case you're new and haven't seen my videos before. But you could go to our resources channel here in Slack that we use in our trading room. And if you go through and you look at, for instance, where is this? Trading programs. All right, and you go here. Here's how we're attacking this market right now. My trading account, which is doing pretty nice. I didn't have the best January, but my February is certainly making up for it. I'm up very nicely in February. TTG Trend Portfolio, right? That's the portfolio where I hold about 30 names, and then our watch list trade, which also has been doing pretty well this week too. We're outperforming. S&P's only up about 0.25% since the open on Monday, and our portfolio is up about 1.5%. Since the open, that's where I'm buying when I'm buying these names, and we've got a handful of names that are up over 5%. Shopify, as I mentioned, SEDG. REGGI is up over 8% since the open. CENX kind of caught a little bit of a bummer here with Cliff Resources with the secondary. That name was up yesterday, but got hit. So that was a kind of a tough call because I had XME in here originally and took XME out, put in Cliffs. Looked great yesterday, not so much today. TGTX actually pulling back a little bit too. I thought that name could run, but looks like down for the week so far. All right, and trades in my trading account. All right, so just to kind of recap some of the things that I did. Was SEDG yesterday? Sorry, sometimes I mix up my days. Yeah, SEDG. I added SEDG yesterday. That's right, and took a couple targets in that one. And a couple other names that are performing pretty well. We caught this LMND today, right? This was a name that I had talked about in the weekly video, just saying it basically had a trigger. It was mentioned today, I think, like Motley Fool or something like that. And, it got the boost here, and I didn't wait for it to get above value. I just thought that, these things move sometimes when the Motley Fool picks them. But I had, been scouting out this chart and this base for a while in Lemonade in a while. So you could see really nice, a decompression there in volume as it's been digesting. That's typically what I like to see a lot of times when a name is consolidating. So nice move up, was up 9.73%. Another name that I got long. It's so funny. Sometimes I put these charts out on the internet, and everybody tells me why it's up. So I got long this name Open last week. It hadn't really done much. It kind of had a couple chances to break out, but I stayed with it. It kind of just came into the 50-day moving average. I mentioned it was a little bit bumpy without losing any major support. Sometimes that happens, but got paid for this thing today, up 14%. So I don't know the reason. I don't know if this was also like either mentioned by someone else positively or Motley Fool or something like that. But this was, so I sold a little bit into this today. Again, and a couple traders asked me about this name in our Q&A session yesterday, and I said, hey, I'm still holding it. It looks fine. I'm in August calls, plenty of time. So I took a couple targets here, 920, paid 780 for those August calls. I'm still in those, so still looking good in those. NEO was another name that started to kind of come around towards the end of last week. Light, again, same thing in here, very light volume. While this thing has been consolidating, you've had to be patient with this thing, but it just looked like it was kind of looking like it was trying to turn the corner. And I jumped into a trade yesterday, and again, another one, got rewarded in for today. And my target was 64.25. I kind of just felt it was close enough. I took a target. This thing managed to get up to 63, which is where I had my target out, and got that. So I'm still in this one. I do like NEO for the long term. But, in terms of swing trade, I'm in stock and took a couple targets today. All right, so got one right off the open. ABNB, kind of a bummer, by the way. This name, I've taken 2 targets in this thing, and sometimes when I take 2 targets, I tend to get a little bit, as you should, a little bit greedy. But I had a target out at 210. It got to 209. It got to 209, and so it did not get my target at 210. That happens sometimes, but listen, I didn't take it off because. So why didn't I take this trade off? Other than it being a little frustrating that I didn't take a target at 207 or 206 or 205 because it didn't lose any support. It's still holding top of value. It's still holding the short-term moving average. So we'll see. Again, once I take 2 targets, I'm a little bit more comfortable holding in that situation. So I did not get a target off in that one today. Yeah, so this Lemonade, sometimes I do this, right? I'm having a lot of success trading stock in this market, but I mix in options every once in a while. So I traded options for this one. When something is moving fast intraday, typically, you can make some money pretty quickly on options. And then once it kind of settles in a little bit, right, what I do is I buy stock versus a hard stop. Or it's a soft stop, actually. I don't actually put out the alert for that. But yeah, and then, of course, and if I lose a little bit of money on the stock, it's just a little bit of money because, the options are where it's riskier, right? If this thing reverts all the way back, you lose your money on your options very quickly, right? But for stock, you could be, you don't have time decay or anything like that, volatility move. You don't have to worry about that. So I do that trade a lot, where I may originally be in options, but I take my profits in the options, right? Because then I don't have to worry about the time decay, and then I get into a stock position, and then I can be a little bit more patient, right? But everybody's different. Datadog, I will probably take my last portion of the position off tomorrow, but this thing has been moving very nicely up and to the right. All right, we mentioned what do you call it? Sorry, what's the name that I'm thinking of? Net. Net also had another nice day. Out and up, as I like to refer to that. Very nice there. A couple other names too. Zoom. This was a trade from last week that we talked about, and I put on a call spread. I'm still sitting with this call spread. But nice little inside day yesterday. Held the short-term moving average, held the top of value, and some continuation up 4.6% for the day. MP is another name too. That this is a name I've been watching for a while. I know it got pumped on the internet a few times by some traders. It did take out this version point of control, which was lingering right when we were watching this last week, right? And I talked about this in a couple of last week's videos, that this version point of control needed to be taken out at 34.65. So it was taken out, and now you can set your stop in here. So I did establish a trade on that. On the version point of control and the price going back. Skyworks, I also took a target into. CRSP, we tried this trade. It's good to talk about losers too, because they don't always, especially, a name, some of these names intraday, they look great and all of a sudden they fade. One that I'll be watching for tomorrow, it does report earnings too. But it tried to get into value here and did not close there. So I got out of it, even though it's still holding the 50-day moving average, not bad. But, if it's not firing off a signal, I can always get back into it tomorrow, not keeping risk on there. Boeing, also an interesting one, right? So even though the market's flat today, a lot of stocks to talk about. Boeing is right at this 50-day moving average. It did not it did close above value. All right, so I played a little bit of this. I did not put on a big position because I kind of want to wait and see, because it's right at that 50-day moving average. But, again, you can kind of classify this as maybe a little bit more of a reopening trade, which I'm definitely open to looking for something a little bit, for some names that are trying to wake up a little bit. Not just all high growth, right, which has been on a tremendous run. One more trade. I didn't take this one because, again, after 6 days, I'm trying to really be a net seller and not put on, too many new positions, right? I'm trying to make sure that as the market goes up, more and more consistently, as we've been seeing the last week and a half. Again, I'm really trying to take off more positions, more risk than add on. But I like this Micron. There is some, I think, March 95 block of calls, which is pretty far up there. But again, whenever we see this option activity, it's just an idea. I always kind of, decide whether or not, I want to take the options or take the stock. Maybe this was partially a roll too out of February. February 89 calls and a roll up to the 95 calls. So regardless, right? All I do is I basically kind of take a look at this and say, hey, well, that's kind of interesting. Let's look at the chart, right? And then I put it in my own system, right? And then figure out if I want to trade it. But I like Micron right here with the 82 stop, right? It's trading at 83.32. Pretty simple, I think. So I did not take this one, but it'll be on my watch list for tomorrow. Any other names? We mentioned a bunch of them here. CSIQ I bailed on. Again, just trying to be very, very prudent with what I want to take risks in. Oh, I did take a trade in this NCNO, which we saw some call activity. I started to watch this last week, this name. Kramer mentioned it, and I forgot about this name. This is another, like fintech name. I think it's cloud fintech. So I want to give this a shot. And I got the version point of control that we took. When I saw this last week, I'm like, well, there's a version point of control right here. Let me see how it does once it takes it out. Again, the reason why is a lot of times we see version point of controls taken out and then a reversal back, right? So I want to make sure it's over it. So I gave it a shot. It's a newer name. We're certainly seeing a lot of, especially China fintech. I mean, this FUTU, again, a little bit of consolidation, which is, I put this chart out last night, and look at it go off to another 20, up 20%. So yeah, I'm looking for opportunities kind of in this space, like similar opportunities. Certainly we've seen PayPal move higher. Square had an inside day today, just down a little bit, but I'm looking for Square to continue. I'm long both PayPal and Square in the TTG Trend Portfolio. All right, guys, so that's it. I mean, again, a lot of other option activity. We saw some XPEV, has a similar look to how it looked in NEO. but I like to stick with the leaders, right? There's obviously three China EV plays that everybody looks at: Neo, XPEV, and LI, right? They're both kind of coming alive here, but I'm going to stick with the strength. I'm sticking with Neo here personally. But this XPEV does not look bad too. You could use a 45.76 stop and you could trade that. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. We'll keep it just at 20 minutes. Have a great night. And by the way, so many other names mentioned by Tribeca Trade Group members. Really, some of the trades that these guys are putting up are amazing. So congrats to all the traders today in Tribeca Trade Group in our trading room. Marvelous day, and we'll look to keep the ball rolling tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody.